The rain hammered down in sheets, drenching the dark alley where she lay discarded. Her small, fragile frame trembled from the cold, her emerald skin marred by bruises. They had thrown her away like garbage. Her own family, the great Zythari nobles, had deemed her a disgrace, a runt unworthy of their lineage. She had cried out when they left her, but no one came. The city bustled beyond the alley's walls, yet it might as well have been a universe away. She curled into herself, the weight of her exile heavier than any wound. Then, footsteps. Steady, unhurried. She dared to lift her head, her violet eyes locking onto the figure standing above her. A human. Tall, broad-shouldered, his dark coat shielding him from the rain. His gaze wasn't cruel, wasn't disgusted. It was something else. "Hey," he said, crouching. "You okay?" She flinched, expecting another blow, another insult. But his voice was warm. "No," she whispered, unable to lie. He sighed, then shrugged off his coat, draping it over her shivering form. "Come on. Let's get you out of the rain." She hesitated. He was an alien. Not Zythari. Yet he treated her with more kindness than her own blood had. She let him help her up. His name was Daniel, and he took her to his home, a small but comfortable dwelling filled with strange, human things. Books. Warm lights. A machine that hummed and produced rich, fragrant liquid he called coffee. She watched him as he moved, her wary eyes tracking his every motion. He didn't ask questions, didn't press her for details she wasn't ready to share. He simply placed a warm cup in front of her and said, "Drink. It'll help." She wrapped her fingers around it, the heat soaking into her chilled hands. "Why?" she finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you helping me?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Because no one deserves to be left in the cold." She looked down at the dark liquid, her throat tightening. "Not everyone would agree." "Then they're wrong." She didn't know what to say to that. Days passed. Then weeks. She learned more about humans. Their strange customs, their odd humor, their infuriating stubbornness. And Daniel, he never treated her like something broken. He didn't look at her like a Zythari failure, just as a person. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. But peace was never meant to last. One night, the air split with the roar of engines. She knew that sound. Zythari patrol ships. Daniel was already at the window, his expression dark. "Friends of yours?" "No," she breathed, dread coiling in her gut. The door shattered inward. Zythari enforcers stormed inside, weapons raised. She knew the one at the front, her older brother, Zalrek. "You should have died in that alley," he sneered. "Instead, you disgrace us further by cowering with a lesser species." Daniel stepped between them. "You're trespassing," he said coldly. "Leave." Zalrek laughed. "You think you can defy the will of the Zythari nobles, human? I think you need to get out of my house." Zalrek's face twisted in rage. He aimed his weapon. And she moved. Before she could think, she was in front of Daniel, shielding him. She had spent her whole life being cast aside, treated like she was worthless. But here, with this human, she had finally found something worth protecting. "Leave," she said, her voice stronger than it had ever been. Zalrek hesitated. Then, with a snarl, he lowered his weapon. "You are no longer Zythari," he spat. "You are nothing." The enforcers left, and silence filled the space they had occupied. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Daniel placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" She let out a shaky breath. Then, for the first time in her life, she smiled. "Yes.